Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you on this game day Sunday. Looking live over M&T Bank Stadium, which will be filled with fans. I think I can already see some tailgaters there. Good morning to you. It's November 5th. I'm Taylor Stewart, and let's talk about your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with what's in store for this day. We're hoping the weather will hold up for us because game day's no game around here.
That's right. That's right. Joint purple in effect here this morning, Taylor, in 50s and 60s out there right now. Sunny skies, and these numbers just warming up steadily. So pretty darn good tailgate this morning for everyone out at the bank. And take a look at the temperatures statewide here. Numbers generally have quickly moved from upper 30s to now in some spots mid to upper 60s already. So yes, mild. The cloud cover we had early this morning already dissipating. So we're set for a sunny Sunday around here, my friends. Good looking weather. Eventually hitting 70 or so late this afternoon. Great weather to be out and about, getting some things done. Maybe that raking that's a little bit overdue, that kind of thing, because you've got very little wind today and temperatures hovering nicely towards 70 late this afternoon. Changes ahead this week. Things are going to be kind of bouncing around a little bit. We profile that coming up.
Everybody needs to be on the same page. We can't continue to have this situation where young folks feel like they can act with impunity.
Continuing coverage this morning. This week, state lawmakers plan to hold a juvenile crime meeting with DJS Secretary Vincent Giraldi in the hot seat. He's facing questions about the department's ability to rehabilitate young offenders. Lawmakers will discuss juvenile justice laws during this meeting. We also expect to hear from those frustrated prosecutors, law enforcement officials, and parents who are calling for help. It comes as the Department of Juvenile Services continues to face scrutiny about how well they manage the young people they bring in. On Wednesday, a Butchers Hill resident was tackled, punched, and robbed by two juveniles. Those suspects were released to their parents in less than 2 hours. Now a letter from both state and city leaders is raising concerns about their release. It's making its way to the Juvenile Services desk, as well as Commissioner Richard Worley weighing in. Vincent Hill has more on what they're saying and why accountability and significant oversight is needed.
A vicious attack in Butchers Hill captured on video.
You didn't give me a chance for me to give them whatever they wanted. They just jumped on me and started pushing me and punching me and stuff.
The two suspects, 12 and 14 years old, arrested and released within 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm pissed. I'm pissed off at the law.
That frustration making its way to the Secretary of Juvenile Services, Vincent Giraldi, and Commissioner Richard Worley by way of this letter.
That is completely unacceptable.
One of the authors, Councilman Zeke Cohen.
It is not acceptable for the victim. It is not acceptable for the general public. And it's also not acceptable for those young people. They need to be held accountable.
Also putting ink to the paper, Senate President Bill Ferguson, who appears to have a much tougher stance on juvenile crime than when he was pressed about it just 3 months ago.
The accountability is questionable.
I think at the end of the day, real accountability is diverting kids from bad behavior.
The letter calling out BPD as a, quote, operational failure. In a statement to Fox 45, a BPD spokesperson said in part, while we agree that the suspects should have been held in custody in order to protect the public, BPD was not responsible for the release of these individuals.
Our ask for Secretary Giraldi and Commissioner Worley is work together in collaboration, no finger pointing. The police department, the Department of Juvenile Services need to be on the same page.
Meanwhile, a source close to the investigation telling Fox 45, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates now considering possible charges against the youth, in part due to our reporting on the case when it first happened.
Ivan Bates wants to make sure that when any person, whether they are young or old, commits a heinous violent crime, that they are held to account, because the lesson that they receive is there are no consequences.
It is important to note Councilman Zeke Cohen is running for Baltimore City Council president. Delegates Luke Klippinger and Robin Lowe's and Mark Edelson also signed this letter. Edelson sending Fox 45 News a statement reading in part, the recent series of juvenile suspects being arrested for violent crimes and then being released shortly thereafter is an operational breakdown that must be corrected with the utmost urgency. You can find this full letter and that statement right now on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Now, just last month, a new Gonzalez poll found there's growing support for tougher penalties for juvenile offenders here in Maryland. According to that poll, 59% say there needs to be a stricter approach, 35% saying there should be a more moderate approach. Among Democrats, there was a major difference between black and white voters. 62% of white Democrats support being more lenient, with 62% of black Democrats supporting stricter laws. Compared to the Republican voters, the poll found 85% want stricter laws as well.
Did that surprise you?
It did, because whenever you see black Democrats aligning more with the Republican Party than with their own base, that's problematic.
When we have this poll showing 62% of black Democrats are aligned with stricter laws, what does that mean for the Democratic Party come January?
Well, that's going to be a challenge. Get a sense. Listen to each of your members. Listen hard. Don't go along as many times you do where everybody's corralled and everybody just kind of goes along to get along. Listen to what they're saying on the important stuff.
Now, there's been a battle brewing between prosecutors, citizens, and the General Assembly on the current juvenile justice laws at play. This morning, we're hearing from another prosecutor who says juveniles are causing chaos in her county. Maxine Stryker has more on why she says she cannot hold them accountable.
It's been an uphill battle for us.
As lawmakers prepare to meet once again next week to discuss the juvenile crime crisis sweeping the state.
We're definitely seeing, I would say, an uptick in juvenile crime. We're certainly seeing a lot more juveniles involved in really serious offenses.
Fox 45 is hearing from yet another top prosecutor who says it's nearly impossible to hold young people accountable.
The legislature's completely tied our hands.
Harford County State's Attorney Allison Healy is joining the plethora of prosecutors, police, and parents across Maryland demanding change to the current juvenile laws on the books.
We're on the front lines of seeing what crime is being committed in our counties. We're on the front lines of seeing how these juveniles are reacting and whether they're getting the services they need, whether we're rehabilitating them or whether we're just setting up criminals really to keep committing criminal acts.
It's two laws driving the frustration. The first being the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which limits those 13 and under to charges for crimes of violence and says a juvenile under 10 cannot be charged.
Some of the problems is that even some of our felony charges, we're seeing an uptick in motor vehicle thefts. Those would not be considered a crime of violence. So anyone from 10 to 12 who gets involved in something like that doesn't come to us. We can't charge them. I mean, essentially, if they are found to have committed the crime, the police just have to drive them home. I mean, that's really all we can do.
The other contentious law is the Juvenile Interrogation Act, which requires an attorney be consulted when a child is taken into custody and their parents or guardians notified.
Their parents can't say, no, they want to talk to you and do it. They are required to speak to an attorney. And of course, that leads to law enforcement not being able to question them, which is obviously an incredibly useful tool for us in terms of holding people accountable.
Healy says the laws have left her and other prosecutors feeling defeated, unable to crack down on crime like they pledged to do.
It just seems like all of this legislation flies in the face without any thought about how it impacts our public safety and the victims of these crimes, really.
Plus, she says juveniles aren't getting the help they really need.
Super frustrating. Even the juvenile court, which the premise of juvenile court is supposed to be rehabilitation, right? We're supposed to be rehabilitating these juveniles. That's supposed to be the intended purpose of it. But even under these new laws, we can't even put them on probation for a significant period of time.
And as the battle continues to brew, she's hopeful lawmakers will actually listen.
Our hope, I think, hearing from prosecutors across the state is that the legislature will listen to us as the state's attorneys across the state as to how this is actually impacting our public safety, and hopefully that they will look to make some changes to the Juvenile Justice Reform Act in a way that would allow us to hold these kids accountable.
Well, that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think the Maryland legislature will address the juvenile crime crisis? Right now, 95% of voters say no. You can weigh in by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote. And for more of our coverage on the crime crisis, head to our website. But get this, Dunkin' Donuts has a sweet treat to help you get over the hump. More on what they're rolling out for the holidays just ahead.
All right. Coffee, donuts, the whole shebang. It's all in order this morning for the tailgate as we see sunshine. Temperatures getting up close to 70 this afternoon. Will this pattern hold for the week ahead? We'll talk about those details in just a minute.
Well, just because Halloween is long gone doesn't mean the treats from Dunkin' have to stop. Okay, the chain is starting a new initiative called Free Donut Wednesdays. So if you're a Dunkin' Rewards member, you can get a free classic donut with the purchase of any drink. The new deal was announced alongside Dunkin's holiday menu this past week, and the Dunkin' Rewards members, well, you can take advantage of this deal November through December. We're looking ahead to a warm day for our Ravens game day forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart lets us know how your work week is shaping up. And still ahead on Sports Unlimited, a retired NFL linebacker and former Terp shares his key to a deep run for the Ravens. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. 3 straight losses doesn't really sit well with Maryland players or head coach Michael Locksley, especially after such a great start to the season. To snap that skid, the Terps would have to do something they haven't been able to accomplish in 16 years. That's beat a top 15 team. Maryland hosting number 11 Penn State. Nittany Lions up 7-0, looking to put more points on the board. Some trickery as Drew Aller connects with Theo Johnson for the 2-yard touchdown. Penn State jumps out to a 14-0 lead. Maryland would answer right back on 1st and goal from the 7. Talia Tungavailoa to Roman Hemby. And that gets the Terps on the board. But aside from that, the offense struggled, especially the run game. Negative 49 yards rushing on the day. That's not going to cut it. Penn State's offense, however, was rolling. Ensuing possession, Aller to Tyler Warren for the 8-yard score. Nittany Lions led 21-7 at the half. And it didn't get any better for the Terps. Outscored by Penn State 30-8 in the second half. Nittany Lions dominate Maryland in the 51-15 win. The Terps have now lost 4 games. Here's Coach Locksley on what's going wrong in College Park.
I don't see anybody in that locker room quitting. We're obviously facing adversity as a program, and the only way to get out of it is to work. And our guys have continued to give us the work doing Monday through Friday, but we just have not played well or executed on Saturday. And I've got to get and find a way to get us to play next Saturday. So we'll get this flushed. We'll get back to work on Monday, and we'll start preparing to find a way to go to Nebraska and get a road win.
Navy on the road in the city of brotherly love, taking on a Temple score, 17-0 Owls. Eli Heidenreich had 2 straight games with a touchdown entering the day. Xavier Arline finds him, and Heidenreich says, you know what, I'll have another. To the 4th we go. Navy down 9. Arline takes it himself, pushes in from 2 yards out. Navy cuts it to 2, but Temple would pull away in the 4th as the Mids fall to the Owls, 32-18. Towson coming off a blowout loss to Delaware. Pete Shinnick not pleased with that performance. I think the Tigers head coach might be a little bit happier after this one. Devin Matthews, first score of the game, 7-0 Tigers. His day far from over. Tigers back on the goal line here. Thanksgiving, 3 weeks away rather. Matthews getting his second helping early, second touchdown for the senior running back. He had 3 on the day. Chris Watkins is like, guys, don't forget about me. Watkins on the give. Watkins to the crib. Tigers lead 21-7. Third quarter, they decide to go to the air. Nathan Kent to Zay Perkins. Tigers go on to win this one, 42-32. Morgan State eyeing back-to-back wins for the first time this season. Tosh Smith and the Bears hosting Delaware State. First quarter, Morgan State with a 3-0 lead. The give goes to J.J. Davis, makes one defender miss, and he gone. 24 yards untouched as the Bears jump out to a 10-0 lead. Hornets on 0, putting together a solid drive. Bears defense is like, yeah, we're going to end that. Marquis Adams picked off by Brian Stukes. Bears led 10-0 at the half, and Morgan State goes on to win this one, 24-17, the final score. A win for Johns Hopkins would clinch at least a share of the Centennial Conference title and a spot in the NCAA Division III playoffs, but they were in some trouble. Down 10 in the second half, some trickery, but a Josh Pulse touchdown cuts the deficit to 3. Let's go to the fourth. Bay Harvey going to call his own number, take it himself, 17 yards. Blue Jays took the lead and never looked back as Johns Hopkins is heading to the Division III playoffs with a 34-23 victory. Hopkins gets McDaniel next Saturday in the regular season finale. Green Terror falls to 0-9 on the year with a 59-20 loss to Salisbury. Stevenson drops its second straight with a 16-8 loss to Kings College, while Bowie State wins its third straight, capping off the regular season with a 46-39 win over Lincoln. The Bulldogs finish the year at 6-4. As far as records go, Ravens-Seahawks will be the best Week 9 matchup in the 1 p.m. slate. Both teams sit atop their respective divisions, but the Ravens have Lamar Jackson. And whether Lamar wants to hear it or not, his 17-1 record against NFC teams speaks volumes. As for
I've never played against him before, but from film, I mean, he's super strong, super fast, got good hands, understands how to sit in zone coverages, get open for his quarterback.
Ravens have made 2 roster moves ahead of Sunday's game with Seattle, activating defensive back Darryl Worley and elevating defensive back Kevon Seymour. Seymour was waived by the team earlier this week, but re-signed with the practice squad. 6-2 and tied for the best record in the AFC. Through 8 games, the Ravens are in a really good position, but there's still plenty of football left to be played. Former Terp and retired NFL linebacker Sean Merriman thinks this team can make a deep run in the playoffs, but says the health of Lamar Jackson is definitely going to be key.
One of my favorite teams coming into the season was the Lions. And what the Ravens did to the Lions show you exactly. And then you're talking about a very tough Dan Campbell team that the Ravens just demolished. They had them on their heels the entire time. They got wide receivers that's capable with Flowers and Odell that's capable of making plays. Their tight end is playing outstanding. They're finding ways to run the ball. And Lamar's running a lot less. And that's what's most important because they only go as far as Lamar's health goes. If he's healthy, they're going to go deep in the playoffs. They're going to run the table in the division. They're going to be a really good team, but they have to keep Lamar healthy as they have been.
Kickoff between the Ravens and Seahawks. That's scheduled for 1 p.m. at M&T Bank Stadium. That's your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Sunday.
All right, we will have a great Sunday if meteorologist Wyatt Everhart has some good news for us. But, I mean, just looking behind you, it's so sunny. It's, kind of brisk, but a nice fall day.
Yeah, you're at this. Tailgaters already building in around M&T Bank Stadium. I mean, look, sunshine, crisp temperatures, but we're used to that, right? It's November football, and we're already in the mid-60s out there. I mean, we add 3, 4, 5 degrees. This is your game day forecast, basically. More sun, more mid to upper 60s. We might briefly actually touch 70 for an hour or two downtown. And widespread 60s all over the map, not just Baltimore, but some of the outer suburbs, east side, just a hair cooler along the bay, low 60s here, though we do already have 170 on the board there in Rosedale. So the numbers, again, floating around the upper 60s to around 70 through about 2, 3 o'clock today. And we'll see things dropping off, a cooler evening on tap for your Sunday. Had some early morning cloud cover. That is now dissipated, moved east and broken apart. So now we're talking about widespread wall-to-wall sunshine for the rest of this Sunday and right through the end of the game. As we go into tonight, generally clear, just a few clouds drifting by, completely dry and sunny start to your Monday, and just a bit of a cooler day as winds turn northerly from Sunday into Monday. That's where we see temperatures cooling off a little bit on Monday, but still some fairly mild afternoons on tap as we go into the week ahead. Next chance for rain really holding off until late weekend, potentially early next weekend. Dry weather, that's the story, and just continued cool air. This Canadian air mass, this high pressure cell, is Pacific air. It's not like out of the Arctic, so just keeping things kind of cool around here and around the East Coast for the next couple of days. But overall, you look at the total pattern here, big ridge of relatively unseasonable warmth. I mean, Omaha, Nebraska today pushing 70 to give you an idea. The really cold stuff is locked up north of the Canadian border right now. And so we're just going to kind of experience slightly milder than average weather ourselves here the next day or two. I think we'll actually see much milder than normal weather on Tuesday and probably again on Thursday. Each day, featuring a little different weather in terms of how much cloud cover, maybe a little cloudier into Wednesday, and that north wind and northwest wind on Monday could hold temps back just a little bit there. But overall, this is a great November pattern. 60s and 70s through the outlook and very dry. Next chance for rain again coming in late to Thursday into Friday. Right now looking like a chance for showers, and next weekend looking seasonably cool. Back to you.
Well, Oi Fest celebrated its 10th anniversary at Union Craft Brewing with a fan favorite contest and all the seafood you can imagine. While the festival has music and brews, the big moment, of course, is the annual oyster eating contest. Those brave enough to compete had to eat over 24 oysters and chug a beer as fast as they could. The winner won the coveted Oi Fest championship belt and some pretty mean bragging rights. This upcoming week is starting off with some cooler temperatures, but meteorologist Wyatt Everhart will break it all down in his exclusive 7-day here at the desk just ahead.
The excitement building down at the stadium, right,
It
Taylor?
is. It is. You can
Feels
already
like
see
football. Yeah, crisp, sunny. Always a great scene down there when the weather's good. And by the way, I mean, we're just going to kind of stay where we are, upper 60s to 70s, sunshine. Great weather for the big battle on the gridiron there with the Seahawks, and more of the same here this week, kind of, right?
I like
60s,
that.
some 70s, lots of sun, and really not much rain until the end of the week. How's that?
No rain? I'm not saying I'm complaining,
No,
okay?
no. I mean, like you think about, we all think of, obviously, cold November rain, right? Immortalized by Guns N' Roses. Maybe
Good
it's late month. I'm sure we'll get it, but not this week.
Okay, well, looks like a good work week ahead for us, right?
Yeah, I'm liking it. Enjoy
the game. The tailgaters who are already out there, go Ravens. We're with you. Have a great Sunday.
See you next week.